Okay, I'm going to introduce chapter 7. So sorry for Tuesday, I had a run down to the Twin Cities with students, part of Innovation Scholars program and have them present. I don't know if you watched, but there is a video, LinkedIn, to the here. That's the recording, that basically just a walkthrough of, the system prompts here, for Unit 7. So in Unit 7, again, we're really looking at control structures, and that's kind of statements, if then, or selection statements like switch statements, and then loops, for loops, while loops, things like that. And I think you already know those a lot. So we're really focusing on the exceptions to that, or ways to do that. So like today in the assignment, we'll look at where do we kind of break the normal order of execution where we do one thing after another after the sequential operations. Where do we break that? And there's two common ways that's broken. One is with exceptions, error handling, try-catch blocks, particularly. And the other one is with asynchronous function calls. So we'll have you experiment with both of those in the assignment today. The learning activity. So we'll break you in groups and assign you, have you work through the learning activity. And again, so the learning activity will be, we're going to read from a RESTful API, because again, I was trying to think of a good, common, easy to do asynchronous operation, and that's kind of a common one. So we're going to read, so there's this website called JSON Placeholder, and you can then request it'll send you some sample JSON file using a RESTful API for us. So we're just going to go request that API, get this data, and print it out or something like that here. So nothing too complicated for this. So we're going to have you work in pairs, but you can work independently. Each pair, the main thing each pair has to be able to do is select a different language. So if you want to do this in Java, the other person can't do it in Java. So we want to have two different languages we're doing this in for this. We want you, in whatever language you want, to generate the initial code. And I would start with, here's a basic API that kind of does this. Just put your language here for this. And again, we want to make sure if you just ask AI to do it, it's going to do it asynchronously and often with try-catch blocks. And we don't want to do that right away. We want to try to look at it as simple as possible. So initially, we want to try to do it without error checking and without asynchronous calls there. So that's what this prompt kind of does, is say, we're going to get this data, but do it without these complicated things. Then once you have that, we're going to add in the error checking, add in a try-catch block, and adjust that and see how that changes things. Particularly, we want to look at catching particular errors and then all errors in general. So a particular error would be like going to a website that doesn't work. So like, again, if I go to this website, it works fine. But if I make up a fake website like this, I'll get an error. Really, I went to a website, error.com is a website, interesting. But if I try to read this, I'll get some sort of error probably, or something won't work. So again, your job is to figure out like how to handle one or more specific errors in your code and how to handle the rest of the errors in general. So, and then the next step is to make this asynchronously. Can you call this asynchronously and non-blocking call? So originally what we want to do is we want our code to basically print out, it should print out starting API code. It should then get and print out the data retrieved, and it should print off ending API code, and it'll block. It should be a noticeable delay in your code. You'll see starting API code, and it'll just wait there. and wait there, maybe a whole second, for that API call to go through. And then it'll display the data it gets and then the ending API code. Now, when we switch to asynchronous mode, we expect it to display starting API code and then do an asynchronous call. It'll display ending API code right away. And then after the API code gets run, it should then display the data it retrieved from this. I think this will work relatively smoothly. I haven't run this before, so I'm not 100% sure. So it'll be interesting to see how you can do this. I think in the main languages like JavaScript and Python and Java, we can do this. And C#. I'm not that sure of other languages. So it'd be interesting to see for this. So that's what you're going to work on. Now, as far as the assignment this week, it's kind of similar, except of course you'll be doing it on your own. Oops, the assignment's hidden. It's not good. Okay, so the assignment this week, again, we're going to explore, rather than like exceptions to the sequential processing, we're going to explore exceptions to loops. Loops are probably the main data structure in almost all programs are loops, but there are two common ways of getting rid of loops, and these both come from what are called functional programming languages here. And we'll get into functional programming languages in a little bit when we get into more on functions and methods and that sort of stuff. So there's a whole area of programming languages called functional programming languages, and there you really don't have loops and stuff like that. You just have functional calls for that. Now, we're not using that, but some of the techniques from those languages have made their way over into mainstream languages. And there's two common things you'll see. And so you have to pick between either recursion and what we call data pipelines or higher level functions. These are like these map kind of functions or reduced kind of functions. So you have to choose one or the other of these, and then you have to pick two languages you want to try this out in. These are some common ones, but again, you can pick any languages you want. I think every language, or almost every language out there should do recursion. They might not all do this map and filter. So if you're picking a strange language, you should check, or or an older language, you could see if it actually does that. So again, you pick your topic, recursion or data pipeline, and then your two programming languages. And then I give you some sample like loops. For recursions, we have these, and for data pipelines, we have slightly different ones. The loops have been designed so that they're a little better examples for those language or for that topic. And then for each language, then your two languages, you're gonna let's say we do this data pipeline here, and so here's the example code in Java using a loop. You want to run this same code in without loops. So you want to just take out the loops here. And again, I did this in Java initially, but you can certainly just paste this in AI and ask this to generate this in Python or in, JavaScript or whatever languages you want, and then replace it with that. So what we want to have is in your examples here, in two different languages, we want to have that same code without loops, replacing it with either recursion or with these data mapping kind of function calls. And then we do have you talk a little bit about those. So that'll be the assignment this week. Okay, let's figure out teams here. Oh, okay, so we've got. I'm just assigning you in the order you came today. Oops. Okay, so well, Addison and Grace, Johnny and Allie, and Heba and Jeffrey. work together. Okay, and again, you can kind of almost work independently. Just make sure you coordinate what languages you're working on this and share the document. And again, there are some places where you might want to talk in between, so you can decide how you want to do that. Sound good? Online asynchronous students, I'll set you up in groups too. Okay, we'll let you get going on that. Okay, one of the issues I forgot to mention is that we've been using these tutor point things, and you can't import libraries or do much with those. So I think you're going to run into trouble running some of this asynchronous stuff in these languages here. So you might want to select a language in an IDE that's not one of these. I put these up here, but then I realized when I was trying a bunch of these out that they didn't work. So for example, Java, I switched to NetBeans and ran it in NetBeans because I had that pre-installed, ready to go there. And for Python, I switched it to Colab and ran it in a Colab notebook here for this end. And that's, I think if you switch to this, I haven't tried this TypeScript one, but I think you might be able to do it in here. So again, switch to an IDE that you have, and if you use VS Code for some of these, you can run some of the stuff right in VS Code in none of these languages. I don't know what ones you have. So sorry about that. I forgot to mention that a lot of this stuff. And let me update these instructions so that that's correct. Okay, so yeah, you might want to let us know what you found that works in these things, and we'll try to update the instructions for that. So Getting the asynchronous, I mean, just the calls to the RESTful API working. So I updated the stuff. Um, I did find these play code versions of JavaScript and TypeScript work. You can install the libraries for those. So I don't know if anyone is doing TypeScript or JavaScript. Um, I couldn't find a good place to run Kotlin or Swift or stuff. So is anyone doing any languages besides Java, Python, JavaScript, TypeScript, C Sharp? Okay. What were you trying out? TypeScript. Okay. Yeah. Well, TypeScript will work. I got TypeScript to work in this link here, this play code. There's just you have to click install library when it pops up here. But I was able to get that to work there. So okay. See how that goes. But yeah, you can say whatever you want. Okay. You have to see, my thought is that this learning activity is short, that you won't take you the whole class to do it. Um, my that was my worry when I created it, but I didn't quite know how it would go with these languages. My other thought is that the assignment might be a little long. So remember, you might want to start the assignment. The assignment you have to do by yourself there, but again, similar stuff where you select two languages and you either pick recursion or these data pipelines. If you're into modern programming, I certainly suggest the data pipelines. I see this in a lot of new programs. Recursion is something, again, if you're going to grad school, you're just really curious about recursion and the theory of recursion, that's an option too. So both of them are good options for some people. So pick one of those and the two languages. But again, you've got to do this code stuff in two languages. So let me know how that goes. I think it'll be a little long, but again, with AI these days, things that I think will take a while are often fast for students.